Welcome to Last Mile Stories, a Meals Now Fleet podcast.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Gabe Dardick, and I'm very excited today to have on Byron Duncan, founder and CEO of New Catering Connections, and somebody I've been hearing a lot about over the past couple of years. So, I'm really excited to talk with you. Byron, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about what you do. And I'm just really excited to have a conversation with you
Awesome.
about your story and journey in the restaurant and catering space.
Gabe, I appreciate it. I'm the owner and founder of New Catering Connections. We're also called the NCC Group. We do fractional catering sales support for restaurants. And the idea is basically if a restaurant can't afford or have the bandwidth or want to train and performance manage their own catering salesperson, they can utilize our services to do so. We are in our third year. We have a team of 68 US-bound catering sales professionals that are on our team. We're supporting 75 brands and about 1,100 locations right about now. It's been a fast growth. It's been fun. I'm a restaurant veteran. I've been in the industry probably 25 plus years. The majority of mine, I was the national director for corporate catering and gifting with the Honey Baked Ham Company.
Wow.
And that's where I learned to do catering back when it wasn't Easter or Christmas or Thanksgiving there wasn't a funeral in town. We had to figure out a way to make money. And so catering kind of became something that we kind of built from the fledglings of 4 sandwiches and a few things on the brand, but grew it into something big. Then I did some work with a field marketing organization for a while. And then Tracy Avolio, who used to work with Monkey. And ran the Catering Institute. Tracy, myself, and Abby, the 3 of us formed the NCC at the January of 23, and 3 years later, here we are. So we try to give a lot back to the community. We have something called the Catering Space, which is a website where people can go and find catering info. We do a free monthly webinar. We do a newsletter, just anything to kind of give back to the industry as a whole. So I guess our goal at NCC is we want to leave the industry better than we found it.
You know what? That's a very good goal. And I think that's kind of what, that's a really good place to segue off of into getting into any industry. I think it's a good just place to begin. I'd love to talk a little bit more about your journey there. So how did you get started in restaurants? You said the Honey Baked Ham Company. Was that your first restaurant experience? Was that?
So I'll go back a ways. In the fall of 1986, I'm aging myself a little bit. My first job was cooking meat 30 pounds at a time in the back of a Taco Bell.
Wow.
And so I started off at Taco Bell right when they were introducing Mexi Melts, which were the 99-cent deals. Anyway, so I was working in the back, $3.35 an hour.
Yeah.
Cooking meat 20, 30 pounds at a time. I was with Taco Bell about 4 years. I stayed with them through college and kind of moved into a shift manager, then assistant manager. Then I was a general manager with them my senior year in college. And then I graduated and said, I don't want to work in restaurants ever again.
As one does.
After, when you have to, and this is the standards back then, we used to have to shine the pots to where you could read your watch in it. It was that kind of level of detail. So, but after I got out of college, I got my degree in advertising management. I was going to go work in radio, made no money for a little while. Then I did a 10-year stint with Kinko's, in FedEx, which is now FedEx Office in the copy industry. And did that for a decade, and then found my way back into restaurants with Honey Baked. So did that for 17 years, and then I've been working as a consultant in the industry now for about, I guess, 5 or 6 now.
Well, my job with Meals Now is that was cause for the first time in my life I've actually had Taco Bell. I had Taco Bell for the first time 3 months ago. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
That was a new experience for me. It was delicious.
It is. It's a little different than it was 40 years ago, but it's close. Yeah.
Yeah. Did they do? Was catering even like a thought at that time? No.
Well, I've always had an affinity to grow sales. It's always been something that I've been very good at, no matter where I've managed. And so part of what I did as a general manager back then is we would do taco bars on Sunday, but it wasn't anything official.
Yeah.
We would bring out pans of meat, cheese, lettuce, tomato taco shells.
Backroom deal kind of thing, yeah.
And we'd sell them for 59 cents a taco or whatever it was back then.
Yeah.
And so we would do large orders, but nothing we ever thought was called catering or anything like that. It was just trying to grow your sales and be a good general manager, more than anything.
So the idea wasn't fully formed yet. Like we didn't have a name for it or anything, but it's the same kind of thing. It's the
It is. It
the
was
community
exactly
outreach
the
that
same.
came. Yeah.
Yeah, it just was at a time where, you've got another Taco Bell down the road and you're trying to beat them in sales and you're trying to do whatever you can to kind of grow the business. And we were finding that every Sunday and Wednesday, we would have large groups of church people coming in and dining at the
Yeah.
inside for dining room. So we were like, and people got to ask me, well, could you ever bring it out to us? And I was like, I don't see why not. You talk to your boss, they say, yeah.
Mm.
So we did this kind of primitive catering, but nothing that would have been ever
Well, that's so
measured
interesting
to
to
any
me
degree.
because that feeds into exactly what you're doing now with New Catering Connections. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what was the need that you saw? What were
Yeah.
people struggling with? Why did this come about for you?
So when I was at Honey Baked, they moved me into the role of national catering manager or whatever it was, because as a general manager, I was very successful. We were able to kind of grow
Hmm.
catering from about, I don't know, 17,000 a year to 300,000 in a year
Yeah.
within just a few years. So they were like, okay, do whatever you did, let's do it for everyone. So we didn't have
Hmm.
salespeople at the time. So we had to teach general managers how to do it, had to teach owners how to do it, because we were a
Yeah.
50-50 organization. And so what I started seeing was, especially in the franchise side, we want to grow the
Hmm.
sales. We need the business, but we don't have any salespeople. And it's not, our model doesn't really justify hiring one and putting it in the
Yeah.
budget, right? Because you don't budget
Yes.
that way for QSR, especially and
Yeah.
fast casual. So as I started working with owners, I started teaching them how to do it. And then Tracy and I were working at another company. And we just kept talking about it, going, you can get leads to a restaurant, but a restaurant then doesn't have any bandwidth or time to do anything with it. It's like
Yeah. Yes.
an owner will go to Zoom Info, or they'll buy a list of leads from someone, and then they're like, okay, now what do I do? And they might have a person that makes $12 an hour sit on the phone and make phone calls, and then nothing happens, it didn't go anywhere, and their
Hmm.
assumption and it didn't work. So if you don't have time to
Yeah.
prospect, you probably don't have time to sell and whatever. So what we wanted to do was create a beginning to end sales program for owners that could not
Hmm.
have bandwidth to do it themselves. And so it was more about, they want to grow that part of the business, obviously Easy Cater and all the other things that have kind of grown it, and they wanted their cut into the pie. And
Yeah.
so we
Of
felt like
course.
we just felt like there was a demand there, and we couldn't find anyone else doing what we do because we're a phone outreach model. It's full sales. If you're on Olo or Monkey or Toast or whatever, we can go in and put the order in for you. So we want to take everything off the shoulders of the restaurant and do as much as we can to help them grow their sales without the investment of hiring a full-time salesperson.
Yeah, I
So
mean, look, that makes a lot of sense to me. It's not it doesn't a full-time person doesn't really fit into every team, especially not every team that's already not scaled and stuff, or depending on what scale you're operating at and what markets you're in, that can be really complicated. So
And
that makes a
not
lot of
at
sense to me. Look,
first. One of the things we were talking about is,
yeah,
can we be an on-ramp until you make having enough catering sales, then you go hire your own
yeah,
catering person. And we've already had
something to
some
help
brands
accelerate.
we've had brands do that with us. It's hard to see them go, but at the same time, they're like, "Oh, we want to do it ourselves now." Like, great, we're here. We're here if you need us, kind of thing. So
It's so interesting to me because I've been working a lot in catering community and stuff with things over the past little while, and something I've seen a lot is the difficulty in convincing the C-suite of the importance of investing into the catering piece of it. Because you have a lot of these people, they see how it's working, they see that it's growing the business, and then you have these other, high-level people that are looking at this from a different perspective, and they can't understand why this requires investment. They just want to go out and do it without understanding the investment required.
And this is where you kind of blame Easy Cater to a certain extent, because they did make it look
Hmm.
easy. And so the idea that you
It's in the
go into a
name.
platform, you flip the switch
Yeah.
and orders magically
Hmm.
just come in, right?
Yes.
And so that got a lot of C-suite folks thinking, going, well, if
Why
they can
not?
do
Why
it,
isn't it
why
that
can't
easy?
we do it? Yeah. And
Yeah.
well, what was nice at the beginning, when it's 7% commission, with what we used to pay at Honey Bake back in the day when they first
Yes.
started. Now it's 15, and now you have PPP, and you have sponsored
Hmm.
listings, and you have Easy
Yep.
Dispatch, and you have all these other fees, and now you're paying 30 to 40%. C-suite's now going, wait a minute, we didn't budget for this, right? We
Hmm.
budgeted this much for commissions, and now we're getting this much in commissions. And so the idea, I think, was, well, we'll just bring it in-house. The
Yeah.
problem with bringing it in-house is they expect to hire a new catering salesperson and that person to
Mhm.
generate 4, 5x, 8x of their cost in the first year. It's just not realistic because there's no
No.
relationships established. So I think
Yeah.
the other side of it too is brand to brand, catering sits in different places. In some
Mhm.
brands, it sits in marketing. In some brands, it sits in ops. In some brands, it sits in IT, because Easy
Do you
Cater
see
and
where it's
platform.
living in IT in brands? I've seen ops, I've seen marketing. IT is interesting to me. Why would it be bracketed under there?
I'm seeing more in IT because Easy Cater is in IT now. Your Olo platform, your Monkey platforms are sitting in IT. So
Mhm.
since most catering for some brands, some have 100% of their catering is all digital through your website
Yep.
or through a
Yeah.
platform, we're just managing it through IT. So there's no selling happening. It's just managing the movement of the order is basically why it sits in IT.
Gotcha. And then operationally, they're just treating it like a normal order, I guess. And even if
A
it's a batch order,
transaction,
it's just
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And
Okay.
so with when a company sits in
Yeah.
operations job is to cut and to be
Yes.
profitable. In IT, it's about transactions moving.
Mhm.
In marketing, there's a little more patience, a little more flexibility
Yeah.
with money. So I think that's why it varies from brand to brand. It's where does catering sit? When all honesty, if you want it to be 8, 10+% of your sales, it probably needs its own space at the C table, but that's
Yeah.
a different story for a different day.
That's a conversation that's been the chief catering officer, right? That's a
Or at
conversation
least
that's
a
been
VP
ongoing.
level or whatever, instead of
Yeah.
what we're seeing is it's all sitting on
Bunch
a
of
senior
directors.
manager or a
Yeah.
director level,
Yeah.
and they have to try to sell,
Mhm.
and their bosses are not salespeople. It's the dynamic doesn't really work, and so I think that's part of it. I think that's where the impatience comes in, is
You
that
know,
there's no voice at the
yeah.
upper levels
Well,
preaching patience.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And why do you think there's such a slow uptick in people kind of seeing this and being like, "Oh, this needs its own space to operate in our business. We should treat this as a separate stream of revenue." Why do you think that's a hard thing to get through the heads of, the C-suites of restaurants?
I think a lot of it has mostly to do with if we can consolidate responsibilities at mid management
Yeah.
and it reduces cost. That's why I think it's a cost reduction factor. I've seen brands
Yeah.
go, "Hey, we have a catering's a $10 million revenue stream for us. Let one junior marketing person and one person in IT manage it." No,
Yeah.
it's not going to happen because I think people don't understand the depth of catering. Your traditional
Yeah.
workhorses in the catering space, your Paneras, your Jason's Delis, even your
Yes. Yep.
Corner Bakery was huge for so long, and a lot of
Mhm.
those brands have a catering structure that's internal to the organization, so they continue to thrive. New brands trying to
Yeah.
really venture into it, we're going to try this for 6 months. If it doesn't work, then we'll switch and we'll try this for 6 months, and then you have no continuity. And I think that's the big thing. When you say patience, a lot of that is continuity as well. You've got to have some consistency, or I don't see how you're going to ever grow your
And
catering.
just a clear strategy and how you want to grow, right? Like that's a big
And
part of it.
there's
So
more than
I
one
wanna
path,
Mhm.
Gabe. There's more than one path
Yep.
to success. There's not this one way, and we're all
Mhm.
going to do the same thing. It might be different for you. So, but
What
pick a
kinds
path.
of what kind of different paths have you seen? What
Well,
what what kind of have been the most successful, like, streams in terms of how you've seen people grow their catering? I mean,
I
obviously,
think
you guys are one of them, right?
Yeah, yeah, we're a method to help them grow. I think a lot of it
Mhm.
has to do with know who your clients are and where does your menu sit, because
Yes.
if you're a salad brand, you're not going to prospect heavily in construction, right? But if you're a Golden Corral, you might go
Mhm.
deep into there. So knowing who your clients are, knowing your price points, knowing
Yeah.
who everything fits, and then building a strategy around where you're strongest. Chick-fil-A has
Yes.
played the school education game to perfection. And so they understand
Mm.
where they sit. I think your options to grow sales are third parties, the easiest to turn on and get the ball rolling. Once you've got enough sales established, take whatever margin is left, however little that is, and move it into an investment of a human to lead it for you, and then let that investment kind of grow and to pay for itself if you've got the right person. You probably have seen this as well. A lot of our former leaders in the industry are now in consulting roles or they've moved out
Mhm.
of the industry.
Yeah.
And so I think they don't want to pay for strategy anymore. They want to pay,
Mm.
they want somebody to come in and do every single step for them because they don't have
Yeah.
anyone to execute the strategy. So I just think there's a lot of
Yeah, that's very interesting to me.
lost.
You think it's just like people are running at capacity and they don't want to have somebody come in and be like, here's how to do it, you go do it. They just want somebody to come in and do it.
And do it inexpensively and where it's going to
Yeah.
be profitable and it's going to show results right away. And those are all, none
Mm.
of those go together, you know?
No, no, that's a very kind of a whiplash of a thing there is if you're looking for cheap, good strategy that somebody will come in and fully implement, that's a bit of, yeah,
And it's going to
that
work. And
seems
it's
like
going to
it'd be
work
a hard place
as
to
soon as
reach.
we
And it's
put
going
it
to work
through it.
instantly.
Where I see brands grow and be successful is when they
Hmm.
pick a path and they stick with it and then they adjust and adapt along the way.
Okay.
Because I think
Yeah.
what happens is brands that struggle, they try something. We're going to hire 18 salespeople, and then they go a
Yes.
year and they don't see progress, and then they're like, "Well, we're going to get rid of all of the salespeople, and we're going to cut down to
Yeah.
4." And we had
Yeah.
18, now we have 4, and now you have 4 order takers, is what you have, who
Hmm.
can't sell because all of their time is spent order taking. And
Taking
so I think it's a
orders. Yeah.
matter of pick your path, stick with it, trust in it, invest and expand your investment as you go, and your sales
Hmm.
should grow. I've never not seen that work. It's just a matter of waiting it long enough, and people don't want to wait long enough. And when
Yeah. People
C-level
need to see
level,
immediate returns on.
yeah,
Yeah.
and when C-level leadership is constantly changing over,
Yeah.
then the whole plan changes every time. And so it's just,
Are
I
you
think
are you
that's
seeing a lot of that? There's a lot of turnover and leadership for these brands, and they're kind of moving back and forth between directions. Has that been a big problem in companies you've seen?
it has.
Yeah.
Quite often, then it starts to feel like musical chairs a little bit where, "Hey,
Yeah.
I worked at this restaurant, and then next year I'm working at this restaurant, and the year after that, that person's working at a
Mm.
third restaurant," and then they boomerang back to their first one, and so there's no one in
Yeah.
place, it feels like, no one stays in place. It's tough.
That's interesting. I mean, famously, the restaurant industry has difficulty with turnover in, especially a lot of lower level positions, right? That's a very well known issue. It's interesting because I've had a lot of conversations in the past little bit about, like, well, I understand that training people is important, but if I'm going to train somebody and they're going to leave, like it's hard to invest in our people like that. I didn't realize that it was as large of an issue or in terms of this leadership level. That seems to me, intuitively at least, to be a huge difficulty. I mean, if your strategy is changing every few years, then how are you ever going to see the kind of growth that you want, right?
Well, and when I look at the brands that we interact with at some level, and the ones that are most successful have had the leadership in place the longest. I mean, you can see these brands that have had someone in a leadership role. I think of City Barbecue. I think of,
Yeah.
even with Jason's Deli, even Panera. You have these leaders that have been in place for so they're everything kind of is in a groove, man. It's those are the brands that really continue to excel year after year because it's part of the culture. It's what they do.
Yeah.
Got it. They got ops figured out. And it's just a constant flow. I just think there's something to continuity of leadership that
And
really
going back to what you said, I mean, it's just rowing in the same direction, right? Like things take time, things take effort, and you see this growth as long as you're investing in the right ways, but you have to keep rowing in that direction. And if you start shifting a bunch of ways, I mean, there's stuff that we know works. And
you
if
can go a
you're not,
little
if you're
to
not,
the right or a little to the
yeah,
left if you go, but yeah, your main direction should be forward.
yeah,
And I think that's part of the challenge is that,
mm,
again, leadership comes in, priorities change. We've literally worked with brands where over the course of 2 years, there's 3 leaders that we've worked with. And
yes,
one said, well, we're going head deep into this direction. And then the
mm,
next one would come and go, nope, nope, we're going to do this. So then our model has had to shift 3 times. And at the end, you're kind of going,
yeah,
well, your clients don't know. Hey, you can't say, here's a phone number, call if you need this, and then quit using the phone number 6 months later.
yeah,
You can't keep changing your menu off too often because,
yeah,
oh, well, I ordered this last time. Well, it's not on the menu anymore. Well, that was just 6 weeks ago. Why can't I order it now? Or I can order in this restaurant, but then this restaurant 3 cities over doesn't have the same menu. The consistency yeah, that's I could get into
yeah.
I'm sure a lot of
No,
reasons
no,
why
that's
it doesn't work, but
that. I mean, as a customer, you crave consistency largely. I mean, that's something that you're looking for as someone, especially if you're. I mean, especially I'm thinking in this B2B space, which is one of the big pieces of catering currently is we're kind of growing in the office lunches kind of thing. Like if you're ordering for an office and then there's this lack of consistency there, that's a really scary prospect, because it's not yourself that's relying on it. It's not a personal thing. Like you're just ordering for a bunch of people, and then they're going to, have completely different, sends your head spinning, right?
Well, yes. And when you also think about every brand that, and I'm sure you probably experienced some of this in your as well, everyone's getting into catering now.
Mhm.
So QSR is getting
Yes,
heavily
they
into
are.
catering. When you start, I'm hearing chicken brands, I'm hearing roast beef brands, I'm hearing
Yep.
all this kind of wanting to get into space. So that just
100%.
takes the
Yeah.
pie and slices it thinner, right? And so, but what a lot
Yes.
of brands that are getting into it don't understand is if you don't have individual meals, or you don't have vegetarian options, or you don't have gluten-free alternatives, then you've made it hard for that office to order from you. Because if there's
Yes.
30 in the office, I need 7 vegetarian options. I need 5 gluten-free. And if I need heavy protein, high fiber, which is kind of the new movement with diet, whatever it might be, you have to have those options or your pie gets even thinner. I've
Well,
seen juice.
it's just a ruling out, right? Like it's a thing of like, well, if you have one person in that office who can't eat what you're ordering, then they're not ordering from you, right?
They can't, right?
So
Or
I
they have
mean,
to order from 2 places, and
yeah,
then it gets, that gets
and
complicated.
that
But yeah,
becomes more of a headache.
restaurants are trying to figure out how to be successful with catering. I would always tell them, have individual meals, have the options available.
Yes.
Don't make it hard to order. The roadblocks. I've had brands where I'm trying to go in and see their catering menu, and I have to
Mhm.
put in my location. I have to put in my address. I have to put in my first name. I have to put in an email address. And then I get to the
I've seen that.
menu,
Yeah.
and I can't see the pricing. And I'm going, well,
Yeah.
now what do I do? Because I can't call the store because nobody answers. There's no one for me to ask about pricing, and I'm supposed to order catering from you. So then I either have to order on the website, or I go to Easy Cater, and then whatever it is.
Easy Gator. Yeah.
It's steps. It's steps. I heard we had a pharmaceutical rep on a webinar that we
Mhm.
did, and she's been a 20-year pharma rep, and she said her key to success, if she's going to order from you, is how few keystrokes I need to do to be able to place an order.
Yeah.
She said,
That's so fair.
yeah.
I mean,
She
look,
said,
we're living in the age of infinite options, right? There's so much out there that as a consumer, if you're looking at this, friction is an immediate dropping off point, right? Like I think that we've seen that, and it's this is not a lesson I mean, catering needs to learn this lesson. I feel like restaurants are sometimes behind on the 8 ball here, right? But this is a lesson we've learned in a million other places too, and every other industry too. You lose business if you have a lot of friction, unless it's something that is absolutely integral, right? Any sort of elastic demand is immediately shunted by um any sort of friction. So that's really fair. I would love to talk about I this came into my head because I know a lot of the stuff what you're doing, and I know this is a hot topic. I know that everyone's kind of talking about it right now. AI. What's happening with AI in the space? What's going on with AI and sales reps? I know there's been some new tech coming out that's like CRM/AI calling people. What do you think about that currently? Is it not where it needs to be yet? Which I'm assuming is probably the case. Is it getting there? What are your thoughts?
I think AI is, from the standpoint of making things easier from research right now,
Mhm.
for sure.
Yes.
I think there's inconsistency in the AI agent place at the moment.
Mhm.
I've seen a lot of companies say we have a tool, but it's not ready yet. I have a
Yeah.
tool, but it's not ready yet.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
keep hearing that because when our model is we're an extension of your team. So if I'm calling and it's Gabe's restaurant, it's like, hey, I'm Byron with Gabe's. How are you? Right. So we're not going to
Mhm.
be Byron with New Catering Connections calling for Gabe. So I'm representing you. So we do that business hours, 8 to 5, Monday through
Mhm.
Friday. We have voicemail after hours, et cetera. To be able to have AI come in and take after hour orders, or at least hold it in place,
Yes.
would be helpful. Because MIT did some studies recently that
Mhm.
if you wait more than 15 minutes to call someone back, there's an 80% chance of them going elsewhere and ordering from someone else. And then after 24
Interesting.
hours, you have a less than 1% chance of capturing that business. So if AI could figure out a way to
Mm.
hold that client just long enough to get you to call back, I think is great. I know like Monkey just put out Sadie, just came out. That's a new
Yes.
tool that they have. I'm not 100% knowledgeable about everything she can do, but I do believe AI is in the next 18 to 24 months may replace a lot of things that we're used to right now,
Mm.
including things
Yeah.
like marketplaces may not be as in demand anymore. Else people
Mm.
may not be as in demand anymore. Research is definitely not going to be in demand because it can do all of it. I mean, we had one of our team come the other day. The other one, hey, I think we're going to be able to cut our labor and ops 75% this year because we wrote 2 AI code pieces that
Mhm.
eliminated like 75% of the time. Those are the kind of things
Yeah.
where you kind of that's where for us it's going to be helpful. I think
Yes.
people will always want to opt out to a human, at least for the near future. So if AI can field
Yeah. Yeah.
80% of those and handle the 20% that need a human, and then have a few humans that are really knowledgeable of what they do, I think in 18 to 24 months, that's going to be universal. Personally, it's
You think
coming
it's
too
more
fast.
of just you think it's more of a tool that's just gonna make the really good knowledgeable workers much more efficient at what they're doing. That's mostly how you're viewing this, at least in the near future. It's a who knows. I agree. It's hard to tell. I mean, the moment you can't tell whether or not the person on the phone with you is an agent or a person, and then it stops mattering so much. But it's not there yet. I mean, I've seen some of these calls, they're really cool, but you can tell.
One that we were testing, and it took me 20 minutes to eventually stump her. And I say her.
Okay.
Um, it and it came down to delivery. It finally came down to a delivery question before I
Interesting.
could stump her. And the delivery question was, do you use a third party delivery or do you deliver it yourself? And she could not answer that question
It couldn't compute. Interesting.
because we get a lot, as we represent brands out there, we do get a lot of people that say, I don't want to use this delivery company. If that's who you deliver with, we don't want to deal with them. We would if you deliver it yourself, we'll order from you. If not, we're not interested. And so I wanted to test that theory with
Yeah.
it, and that was one thing that it stumped. So I think that's more of a coding fix probably,
Yeah.
but the delay was very short. It was
Mhm.
like less than a split second. So you knew it was an AI, but it wasn't a uncomfortable AI experience at all. I didn't find. But yeah, we're
Was it
getting
still
there.
not a little uncanny valley for you? Was it not like a little bit of like, "Oh, this is close, but it's not quite human," you know? Was
Well, and
that
I
any of that
think
experience still or not so much?
for me, I'm trying to dive in pretty deep to AI. So like
Yeah,
I have Grok, I have Claude, I have Chat, I have
of
Gemini,
course.
because I
Yeah,
want to.
yeah, yeah.
And they all do different things well, so that's why I like
Yep.
them. But Claude has been very good for us for building out forms and documents and tools.
Yeah.
So things like that we're used to. So I'm not as
Also quite good at
uncomfortable.
programming, I think.
Yeah, I'm not as uncomfortable with it. So it didn't bother me, but I can see someone who is in my age group as an Xer or a little older struggling. But then again, in 10 years, most of us are going to be retired, you know? So I think it's a matter of for the short term, if
Yeah.
it's Linda at the construction company who's used to talking to Mike at the restaurant, she's going to want to keep talking to Mike. But I think that's going to shrink over time.
Yeah, I mean, this is really interesting to me because it seems like, we're kind of postulating about what pieces of the work are gonna be replaced, and I think, especially when it comes to the B2B space, right? The relationship piece there is so important. I mean, when you're talking B2C, sometimes there's a little bit less direct selling, a little bit less, direct connection with the restaurant or whatever, but in that B2B space, it's all about the relationships that you can build. So the AI, maybe it's just refocusing from spending a lot of effort on marketing to direct sales and to direct relationship
Relationship.
building, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's weird. Well, I was gonna say one thing that's weird to me is email is pretty much pointless at this point. I mean, I always tell people, when was the last time you responded to a cold email to buy something? It just most people don't do it.
True.
Phone now, we're starting to see now that you touched on AI, we're starting to see primarily with tech companies in certain pockets of America where AI agent is answering the phone and determining whether you get through or not. It's the AI gatekeeper, right? In other words, hey,
Interesting.
I want to speak to the person in charge of catering at your place. I'm sorry, can you tell me a certain person that you're looking for? If you don't know that person, you're not getting by. If you go on LinkedIn and ask for the name, you say the name to them
Mm,
and they go, can I ask them who's calling? And therefore it sends all of that before. In other words, it kind of determines on whether you're going to get through or not. So we're seeing more of that start to
very
emerge.
interesting.
So if email is pointless and phone calls start to become less effective, then person to person now becomes the most effective means
Yeah.
of building relationships. And
Because
then
it's the only thing that's not gated. Yeah.
right? Well, and I guess to a certain degree, but right, yes. And so
Hmm.
the other part I was going to say with that too is if you start thinking about where platforms sit now, if I just have to say, hey, Grok, I need lunch for 20 for Wednesday. I would like Italian. I need somebody that's got individual meals and gluten free and vegetarian options. Can you tell me what my choices are? And they go, oh, we have this restaurant. Great. Can you order for 20 people for me for Wednesday? And it'll do it. So now I don't need a
Yeah.
platform because my AI is going to order it. It's got my credit card on file. It's going to
Hmm.
process it and it just processes the order. And so what does that mean for platforms in a couple years? I don't know. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, it's one of those times where we're kind of it's also speculative because when anytime you have like a leapfrogging style technology, it's like, well, it's so hard to predict exactly what it's going to do. But I think what we've seen every single point in history is we've made predictions about when we're going to hit certain technologies and things, and then those predictions are always much further in the future than we think. Usually, we hit technologies and stuff like the one I always think of is Deep Blue and Gary Kasparov in '99,
Okay.
right? It's the chess computer. Like nobody thought they could do that, and then they built a computer that beat the best human in the world. And then every single metric that we meant to hit after that, we always hit it before all the experts said we were going to hit it,
Yes.
except for like some crazy, maybe some robotic stuff. But at least in terms of like information technology,
Yeah,
that's always
I
been the
think
case.
usually futuristic movies, they can get closer to tech. They usually miss on the human experience. In other words,
For sure,
that's where
for
they
sure.
kind of go, and if you watch Blade Runner in the 80s, which I think we're close to whatever Blade Runner year was and how far we are.
No,
But
2049, right?
we missed it completely, as far as how that's going to look. No, but you think about AGI is supposed to be here
Yeah.
soon, and then ASI right behind it, and then that I don't know what any of us are going to be doing on a daily basis if computers are running at all. So, but I joking, I say, AI right now can build a beautiful picture of a house, right? But it doesn't know where to put a doorknob. It's like it can do these amazing things, but then the
Yeah.
littlest thing trips it up, and I think
Well, yeah. I mean,
that's
I think people often mistake, ability for understanding. It can do a lot of things, but it doesn't really understand the things it's doing. It's
right.
building things based on patterns, at least for now, right? We don't have. Sorry, I can nerd about the AI all day, but
Well,
I kind of want to stay on top. I mean, the general understanding stuff is difficult.
Well, and emotional decisions, it doesn't understand. Logical decisions, it can. And I think that's where people kind of divvy up. So sorry for interrupting.
No, for sure. I mean, yeah, that makes sense, and I think it's going to be interesting to see where it goes because the emotional decisions is just trying to simulate that, right? Like it's trying to make it look like it understands without actually having to understand, which is, I guess, the point. The phone call thing you mentioned is very, very interesting to me because I know at least for myself, like I'm screening my calls if I don't recognize the number or I'm not expecting a phone call. I'm not answering, right? Like that's never happened. So when you guys are calling currently, how much are you seeing this like a cold call actually go through? Like how many people are actually picking up a cold call from a number they don't recognize?
Probably higher than you would think. And here's why.
Really?
I'm not going to call places that we don't think are going to answer the phone. So you start
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
to pivot your targets. So like I know that if I call a school, somebody's going to answer. I know when I call a church, somebody's going to answer. If I call a real estate office, they're going to answer. If I
Makes
call,
sense.
you start to understand what industries make more sense, and then you go that way. And so, like, we've minimized how many medical offices we call because no one answers the phone there, or it's routed to a call
Interesting.
center somewhere. So a lot of us is tweaking our targets to places that we're pretty confident are going to answer the phone. So gradually, if that dwindles in 5 years from now, we may have to rethink our model. But right now, it works really great.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a few times we default email first, and that is like university athletics. We email coaches because, hey, you're coming to town, you're bringing the team, you need to feed them. Coaches will respond to email. They're one of the few
Okay.
industries that really do effectively because they're always dealing with recruits or unusual things coming through. So they're usually watching. So that's one thing we email first, but everything else is 99% of our outreach is phone first. And it still works. I would say on 100 calls, we're still capturing 35-40% of the time we're capturing an email. So that means we're
40%. Wow.
pretty consistent.
And how many touch points would you say after that it is to an order from first contact? Because I've heard anywhere from like 7 to 15. Like I've heard crazy numbers in terms of, I wonder what your experience is in that.
After our first year and a half, we did some analysis and it was at 14.
14. Yeah.
What we've done is we've gotten it down to 9
Okay.
now, and on average. Now some take more, whatever, but on average it's 9. And we
Not to
did
give away
that.
any industry secrets, but
No, I
how'd
mean,
you go
listen,
about?
I always joke. I always refer to like Nick Saban. Nick Saban could have told you how to be the perfect football coach. It doesn't mean you know how. So I don't mind sharing
Fair.
ideas with anyone. I'm not that I'm comparing
Love it.
myself to Saban. Please don't mistake that. What I'm saying
No,
is,
I love it. I love it. Go run with it.
I can tell somebody what we do. I don't know if they
Yeah.
care enough to try it. We don't ask if anyone. We don't ask if you cater. So if I was like, hey Gabe, I'm Byron. I'm with the ABC restaurant. Do you
Yeah.
guys ever feed your team? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to find out what industry you're in, and then
Mhm.
I'm going to ask you a question about your industry. So it would be like, hey, I'm calling the dental office. Hey, I know in the
Mhm.
first week of March you got dental assistants week, and then hygienist week is right behind it. Have you guys planned your meals yet for that? And so what you do is you skip the first 3 or 4 questions and you go right into an industry question, and they'll answer that usually for whatever reason. It catches them off guard because
Mm.
they're conditioned to say yes we cater or no we don't. They're not going to when you assume they cater and you're asking about an event, it shows you did your research, it gives you credibility, it makes them listen. And now when I start talking
Yeah.
about 14 touch points, I just took 4 of them and did it in one, because now I'm learning how many people you feed, what's your budget, how often. Hey, I'm going to send you an email. And if I don't hear from you, I'm going to call you back in 24 hours just to make sure you got it. And so now you're encouraging them to respond. Yes, I received it. And so you're shortening how many back and forth, and it shrinks the time as well.
That's very interesting to me because I think about the kinds of emails that I would reply to, or if I'm getting a cold email or things like, something at my work email. The number of times I've gotten an email that's like generic, like, hey, I'm interested. I saw your LinkedIn profile and I'm interested in what you do. Can I sell you some ABC service? Right. Versus a number of times where it's like, hey, I see that you work for Meals Now. This is like, I know this is what you guys do, and here's a specific thing that I'm working. I'm much, much more likely to respond to that second email.
Same.
That first email, like I got one of those today. It was like, hey, it has no reference to what it has my name and the fact that they saw my LinkedIn profile, and it's clearly written by a bot. I'm like, I'm not responding to this,
Well,
Yeah.
especially when they don't quite get what you do, right? But it's in the
Yeah,
area.
exactly.
Like, hey, I see you work in catering, whatever. And then they kind of go,
Yes.
would you be interested in a recruiting software? And I'm just going, I don't know if you understand what we do. That's not it. So yes, I get those all the time as well. I find for us, it's all about personal, to the point, very specific, no copy paste, no
Mm.
one size fits all. When you go one size fits all, people catch on and ignore it.
That's
I
sorry.
was gonna say
I think that's super true.
yeah, people like talking about food. And so if you
That's
can
also true.
if you can come at this from the right angle, that's why I
Hmm.
think we get so much attention when we make calls. It's because people like
Yeah.
talking about food. If you got a fun approach and you kind of start saying, hey, have you tried this before? Would you like to come in and, hey, have a complimentary meal and bring a guest, and we'll let you try us out. And then if you have something coming up with
Hmm.
catering, keep us in mind. We have ways of cutting to the chase.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. I mean, a lot of this philosophically is very close to the Meals Now kind of idea of things, and I know that you and Chinten have talked and stuff. For reference, Chinten is the CEO for anybody listening of Meals Now. But that was a lot of what sold me on coming to work for that company is that approach of it's relationship first. It's very much there's a lot of people can do certain stuff and we can provide like the product. There's a lot of DSPs and there's a lot of people doing delivery, but it's that approach of coming to the restaurant, having that person-to-person interaction, having that accountability there. I mean, I've heard stories of lots of people who their main frustration is that they have no interaction. When something goes wrong, like they send an email, it feels distant. They don't have anybody to hold accountable for that. That's a lot of the problems that we see in the industry. And I think it's sounding like, at least in the sales prospecting, it's very similar, right? It's a very much of a, I want to order from a guy that I like and I know, and I want to be able to, if something goes wrong, tell him, hey, this went wrong. This was a bad order or whatever, and they can fix it.
It all comes down to trust. Trust is, I think it was Mo that said this some years back, that the first order is just a date. By the time you get to the third order, you're married, right? And so you need those relationship
I have heard
pieces
that,
to
yeah.
get you to the third order.
Mhm.
Where Chintan and I have bonded is that he wants to build a model where drivers are dedicated to a brand.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
therefore that client that orders from you as a restaurant sees the same driver multiple times, it builds
Mhm.
confidence, it builds trust. And so I always think if you're a restaurant brand out there and there's a delivery service provider out there that wants to give you a driver, dedicated driver or a team of drivers, so consistency, they know the
Yeah.
brand, they know how the setup works, they know all that. Brilliant, brilliant. I'm a
Well,
huge
it's
fan of
very much in
merchandising.
parallel to the new Catering Connections strategy here, right? Of like calling it as part of the brand and stuff. And I think that it's similar because what was brilliant to me, at least when I was getting into this company, was Chintan brought up this idea, and this is similar to what you're doing, of the driver consistency index, the DCI, of just having a metric to track that relationship, essentially, of how often are those drivers coming back and how often are they're repeating that kind of thing. I think it's a similar thing. It's just a way to track how we're doing relationship building, how we can do it better, and to continue to do that. So it's very much in parallel, I think, to the strategy that you guys are approaching the market with, because we need that relationship building style, and we're seeing that that's seems to be what's winning out in the space right now.
Well, and it all comes down again, it goes back to one of your first questions is patience at the
Yeah.
at the upper levels of the organizations, but even in a restaurant, because
Mhm.
if like we've got clients that have been with us over 3 years now. We're barely over
Yes.
3 years to give you an idea.
Yeah.
And they're all 10, 12x ROI with us. I mean, we had one client,
Yes.
I think in December, she was almost at 20x. It was crazy. I was almost jealous. I'm
Wow.
like, "Okay, we need to charge you more than what we're doing."
Yeah.
But the idea is that if you're patient and you wait it out, that trust and relationship, there's the payoff. And what's funny is that those owners that have been with us will tell other people saying, "Listen, just stick with it. I promise it works." Those like usually if people are with us a year, they're good. It's to get us sometimes it's getting folks to the year mark
Mhm.
before they get impatient on time. But yeah, it's all about relationships and having that
Yeah.
person on our team represent you consistently for 3 years, can't beat it.
No, that makes a lot of sense. One last piece. I know we're getting close to that hour, and this has
Oh, we're
been,
good?
been
Yeah.
a very engaging conversation. It's something I want to talk about too. On a bit more of a sour note, the market right now. What are we looking at? I've heard some things about frustrations with the current market conditions. Things are a little bit difficult right now. How has that affected what you've been seeing in terms of order taking? I know you guys do a lot of order capture and stuff. So what has been the impact of that? Does that mean that it's time to invest more in this thing so that as you future proof it, you come out of it on the better other side? Or does that mean it's people are kind of putting on the brakes? What do you see?
Well, we touched on it a little bit earlier. Everyone wants to do catering. So
Yes.
fast casual, QSR, fine dining now, you're starting to see some of these brands get into it. Private
Yeah.
caterers, grocery stores,
Yeah.
convenience stores, Awas of the
Yeah.
world are all getting into catering, and that pie keeps getting slimmer and slimmer. So
Yeah.
I think there's more catering than ever as far as people buying catering because it's more corporate culture now to
Yeah.
provide meals, but the pie is getting sliced thinner, and
Mm.
most people's first experience is on a marketplace with a kind of a realistic commission line they think at the beginning, and then they start realizing, well,
Hmm.
wait a minute, I'm not getting any orders, so they keep gradually going up on their
Yeah.
preferred placement, so that margin keeps getting squeezed. I've had brands that
Yeah.
literally say, I don't even know if it's worth it to do catering because there's not
Yes.
enough margin left and the marketing value is not enough to outweigh the minimal margins. I had a client literally tell me it cost him $900 on a marketplace to get $2,000 worth of sales. I mean,
Yeah. Wow.
that's
Yeah, that's
before
difficult.
food costs and fees and
No,
everything.
I understand. There's
Yeah.
almost like food costs there is probably what, 30%, and then you have labor costs, and like that margin is tiny.
And I know it's incremental labor, but it's still and for him it was I lost money on that deal. And so it happens. I think the other side of it too is I think brands are trying to figure out what's their sweet spot. And I
Mhm.
think some are trying to get more scheduled, I guess if that makes sense, saying we trying to find catering outside of the lunch window because
Mhm.
we're already packed, we don't have the resources or
Yes.
bandwidth. So
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
trying to do breakfast catering, or we're trying to do afternoon catering, or we're trying to push things to weekend social type catering
Yeah, I think
opportunities.
Einstein's done a very, very good job of the breakfast catering thing, and yeah, there's some other brands that I know are doing a similar thing. Yeah.
So I think sour wise, I think the biggest push right now is people are trying to figure out how to convert third to first because they don't own the relationships, and
Mhm.
they've realized that's important, and trying to understand rewards, and rewards are a little scattered right now. They're all over the place.
Yes.
It's
Well,
hard to
that's the
ultimately.
thing that EasyCater, mastered, right? Is that rewards thing, and that was it was such a it was such a shift in mindset, I think, for a lot of people between going from 10% off on the next thing or going from a discount on the to an Amazon gift card that you can go and buy whatever you want, right? Like that was such a big thing
And
too.
it's mine. I don't even have to get the company's the one spending the money, but I get to keep the gift card. I mean, I remember we were at Food on Demand this year, and one of the ladies was up on stage talking about her experience, and she started talking about how much money they spent, and my brain instantly went to, okay, what's 5% of that? And it was like $10,000.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there going, she got that $10,000 bonus because you're never getting her off of the platform. So you have to understand that.
No, never. Yeah.
And why would you? I know how I am. I use Avis and I use a credit card that gives me Amazon dollars. I do the same thing. I get it.
Yeah, for sure.
But
It makes sense.
this is my piece of controversy.
Please, yeah, go ahead.
As our DoorDash and Grubhub and those
Hmm.
guys,
Hmm.
they split their cost on both sides of the transaction. The
Yeah.
buyer pays part of it, the restaurant
Yep.
pays part of it. On catering, that's not how it works. The restaurant
Mm.
foots the entire bill,
Yeah.
and I don't think that's fair. I think if there's a way to just transition 5% from one side to the other, I think you would gain so much goodwill across the industry that restaurant owners would be quiet. They would totally be quiet, at least for a year or two. But just the
Hmm.
gesture would go a long way to restaurants and brands constantly trying to figure out, how do I figure out Joanne and her cell number on this report I got and turn them into a first party. They're starting to spend so much labor converting third to first instead of just building their first party. You know what I'm
Well, my,
saying?
my question on that would be, I totally get that. My question on that would be, how flexible do you think catering is on price for the consumer or for the business, right? Because I mean, if they're, do you think a 5% I mean, prices, as we know, are already kind of going a little crazy. I mean, things are expensive. It's expensive to order DoorDash. I ordered like a sandwich the other day because I didn't have time to run and get a sandwich. It was like $30 for a sandwich. So I'm like,
Yeah.
that feels off. So how flexible? But that being said, I still ordered the sandwich. So it's not like I didn't order it.
You
So
just
I
may
don't
not
know. What
order
do
it
you think?
next time you may pack
Yeah,
a sandwich, right, instead. So you get you
exactly.
that time. I think 5% moving, if you're talking about an average Easy Cater order is $450,
Yep.
$500, let's say,
Yep.
5% is $25. I don't think that's enough to move the needle for a restaurant not to
Fair.
order. I mean, from a business not to order.
Hmm.
But the $25 in the hands of the owner, meaning that I make $25 more on this order, can make a huge difference.
Is a
I don't
big
know. That's
deal.
my
Yeah.
take. I think at some point you push people away. Yes. I think some people
Yeah.
go, it's a little too much, but I don't know if $25 more would do it because I'm seeing people paying 10% delivery fees, which I don't agree with that, but that's a different issue too. They're paying a 10% fee. So if it's $500 orders, I'm paying $50. If it's a $5,000 order, I'm paying $500 delivery fee.
Mm.
How much more is it costing you to give me that order? But that's a different story, different day.
Hmm.
But I'm still seeing them leave tips, substantial tips. So I don't know if that's much of a movement there. Plus on DoorDash, you're paying an elevated rate on EasyCater or platforms. You're paying the same price you would if you went to their website in theory. And so I think there's some movement there that would ease it on the restaurants a little bit. And I think the gesture would go a long way. I think that's where I'm.
I mean, look, that makes sense to me. The tipping thing, I work for Meals Now. We do the delivery. The tipping thing has been a fascinating point of conversation because it's something I've really been learning about since I came to this company. And we've had conversations around, restaurants being like, "Hey, can we potentially split this tip between the driver and the kitchen or what?" But the fascinating thing, fascinating, I say kind of weird thing for me has been just in terms of compliance, just legally. So many places require that tip to go to the driver. And like, it seems like it's a very, at least from the government side of regulation side of things, a very difficult thing to play around with. So I think that it'd be nice to have some more flexibility there to play around with things and make restaurants happier. And, we all want to make the restaurants happier, but I think it's hard to play around with some of those things without getting into trouble.
I think about 2 or 3 years before I left Honey Bake to kind of do my own thing, we were just getting into tip sharing, and for the first time for catering, and it was
Yeah.
substantial. But we were
Yes.
self-delivery companies. We did our own. I think when you pull the incentive out of the restaurant, it changes the desire within the restaurant
Yes.
because to do so.
Yeah.
But we've also heard, like I heard, we had a $1,700 order that we were navigating for a restaurant, and it had split into 2 orders for whatever reason. I guess maybe it's how much he had to pay on 2 different credit cards, whatever it was. But he put
Yeah.
the tip on the first order, but not the second. He just he had front loaded it. So the second one was rejected by the delivery company because it had no tip. And so the driver shows up,
They got half an order.
will not take the whole order and leaves the other order. And then the client's frustrated, and the client doesn't understand. It just knows that I ordered on this site, this person delivered, but I'm working with the restaurant. The restaurant's saying there's nothing they can do about it. The platform.
Well, and the truth of it, Byron, is why would they understand? There's no reason that they should understand that. I mean,
right.
If I'm from the perspective of a consumer, your entire operation is a black box to me. Like I don't know what your delivery is. I don't care if it's third party
And it
or
doesn't
first
matter,
party
right?
or whatever. No, like it doesn't. I don't give it. I'm looking at that and then I'm thinking to myself, was this a good experience or bad experience? Either way, that's on the restaurant. That's it.
Yep.
And that's a very interesting thing. I've started to hear, especially from people who have transitioned over to us from other places. There's some delivery horror stories out there. It's part of the we were. This is a fun story I've been liking to tell. We heard this from a brand when we were in New York. Before they worked with us, they had somebody show up to do a delivery who was in a full gorilla costume. He just showed up in a gorilla costume and he was kind of high and he just was like, I'm here to take the delivery. And they had to turn this guy away. And like, that's not the only story I've heard like that. Like I've heard people taking the delivery bags and like flipping it over their shoulders and all those kinds of things. Right.
Well, we had one that was an $1,800 order and they showed up on a moped.
Yeah. Like that's crazy. Yeah.
Right. And so, yes. And you're right. The restaurant can say it's not my fault, it's them, but the client
it doesn't matter
still holds you accountable. Yeah. And so that's well, we've uncovered a lot of issues today.
For sure.
Yeah. I was gonna say the industry is fun. I've never seen it where it's more fun, but it's also frustrating at the same time. And I'm sure everyone feels the same way.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
I know a couple of people that are a single point of catering leadership and a 100-unit, 200-unit brand working themselves to their last breath.
To the bone. Yeah.
Probably not appreciated to the level they need to be. And yet no help is on the way. And I feel for that. And but if people didn't have the love of the client, the love of the catering industry, I sometimes ask, why are you doing it? Why are you doing it if it's that hard, And
people love what they do.
They love what they do. We all do. I mean, hell, 25 years later, I'm still talking about catering, and I love it. Don't know why, but I do. But
you know what? I think that's a fantastic note to end on. I love that. This has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for being here, Byron. I really appreciate your time. Yeah.
All right, man.
And hopefully we can have another chat soon because I feel like we could go for another hour of this. I just
let me know when you're ready. Yeah, and give Chintan a high five from me, and congrats for joining. I think you're in a great organization.
Thank you. I'm very excited about it, and I will give Chintan that high five. It might have to be an high five for now. He's all the way in Arkansas, but I will do so. Okay. Cheers, Byron.
All right, Gabe.
Thank you very much.
All the best.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of Last Mile Stories. I'm your host, Gabe Dardick, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next month where we have a new episode talking all about restaurants, catering, delivery, and all the other hot topics in this industry. So, yeah, see you then.